Welcome to Growth Matters, Business Insights, and Tech Trends. My name is Justice. We talk about business, technology, and current affairs, so enjoy, sit back, and relax. Today's episode is talking about workforce development. Amy Lloyd, Assistant Secretary for Career, Technical, and Adult Education, communicated in a memorandum to all state directors of adult education. Part of that memorandum, she highlighted the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, the acronym WIOA, which was conveying the Biden-Harris administration's priorities to the states. Under the WIOA, the Unified and Combined State Plans communicate the state's vision for the state workforce development system. WIOA planning requirements aim to foster better alignment of federal investments across job training and education programs, coordinate service delivery across programs for shared customers, improve efficiency, and ensure that the workforce system connects individuals with high-quality job opportunities and employers. Our guest today is Rahsaan Hall, President and CEO of the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, one of the oldest affiliates within the National Urban League. The Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts focus and goal are to provide opportunities for every person who walks through its doors to realize economic empowerment through necessary and mid-level skills training, certifications, internships, and job placements. Welcome to the Growth Matters podcast. Thank you for being here. Please share with our listening audience a little bit about your background.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for having me, Justice. It's a pleasure to be here. I come to this work after a career as a civil rights attorney and advocate. So prior to becoming the president and CEO of the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts, I worked for the American Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts, where I was the director of their racial justice program, where we engaged in civil rights and civil liberties advocacy. And before that, I was the deputy director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and Economic Justice, which is now known as Lawyers for Civil Rights. We handled race and national origin discrimination matters through housing, employment, police misconduct, and voting rights. And prior to that, I was a prosecutor in Suffolk County. I worked in the Suffolk County DA's office for about 8 years, where I handled any number of gun, drug, homicide cases for those years. I'm also an ordained reverend within the African Methodist Episcopal Church. My home church is St. Paul AME Church in Cambridge.
All right.
Yeah, and serve on several boards, originally from Denver, Colorado, but live in the city of Champions, Brockton, Massachusetts, and Massachusetts is home now.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Rich in background there.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're definitely in the right place for the right time. Could you share a little bit about the mission and vision of the Urban League to our listening audience?
Sure. The mission of the Urban League is to enable adults in Massachusetts to overcome economic, social, and racial barriers, which are oftentimes exacerbated by domestic and sexual violence, and does that through economic empowerment and development. We operate across 5 pillars: employment, which includes entrepreneurship and workforce development; education; health; housing; and justice, which is a catch-all for voting rights and civic engagement, criminal law reform, police accountability, and environmental justice, or anything that's impacting communities of color and violation of their civil rights. And so that's the work that we do. We do that work through public education, we do it through programming, and we do it through advocacy.
Now, some of the programs you mentioned earlier about the entrepreneurship and education, is some of those programs available to all? Is it a fee-based, or how does that work?
All of the service, as you read in your intro, all of the services that we provide are free of charge to anyone who participates in the programming. We have a couple of workforce development programs. One is called MSIMBO, which is Swahili for code. It's a coding program. It's a 20-week boot camp that takes people with a high school diploma or equivalent and trains them basic coding, HTML, JavaScript. It's full stack, front end, back end. and prepares them for opportunities in the tech sector, entry-level opportunities at the tech sector, and we provide a stipend for their time in the program. We also have a cloud computing certificate program. In terms of entrepreneurship, we have an accelerator program for small businesses that's been shown to increase small business revenues by about 36% on average. So those are two of the programs that we run, and again, at no cost to the participants.
Oh, and how's it been in attendance? What's your target population for those?
So the history of the Urban League grew out of Black people fleeing the South at the turn of the century, fleeing racial violence and coming to northern cities and being denied employment opportunities. And so the Urban League came about to train people for the opportunities that existed in northern cities, but also to advocate for access to those employment opportunities. And so our history is rooted in serving the Black community, but where we stand now and the services that we provide is we serve anyone who is looking for assistance and help. We are physically situated in Nubian Square in the heart of Roxbury in Boston, and so our services are more readily available and accessible to people in that community, which is predominantly people of color and mostly Black. But again, we serve anyone who comes to us who is looking for these services.
And so you said certifications. What type of certifications? Is mostly computer or?
Yeah, there's a cloud computing certificates that we provide, and we're working, exploring a partnership with Franklin Cummings Tech Institute, which will be moving to Nubian Square to look at some additional certifications as well.
Oh, okay. And so how's that been? You help them with the job training as well as resume building, LinkedIn kind of things?
Exactly. We have a variety of services that are available. We use or partner with an online platform, JobCase, to help people identify employment opportunities. We also do some resume workshops, interview skills workshops. We actually have a job fair coming up on June 6th of this year. It'll be at the Reggie Lewis Center in Roxbury, and it's a two-part fair. The first part is a community forum where there'll be several workshops around interviewing and resume. But then the second half is the job fair, where we have about 40 employers who are available for individuals who are seeking employment to bring their resume by and talk with people from the jobs to find out if there are opportunities available. We've had several people find employment, sometimes on the spot, sometimes after an interview process.
Mm-hmm. So do you have other partners that you're working with to help you with this mission?
We have a variety of partners who we're always engaged in, and it ranges from whatever the issue is. So, I mentioned housing was one of the issues. Currently, we're working on a deal to create affordable housing using the current building that we have. We do that with Madison Park Community Development Corporation. We've been in conversations with Mass Bio to help them prepare some of the people for their bioversity program, where they're taking people with high school diplomas or equivalents who don't have prior experience in the biotech field and getting them ready for some of the employment opportunities that exist there. So we're doing some of the prep training for people that are going through their course. So there's several organizations that we partner with on a variety of issues.
Now, how do you get the word out? So if some people are not familiar with the Urban League and workforce development and the housing, the different things you do, how do you get that word out to market your brand?
Yeah, we try to do it in a variety of ways. I think one of the most tried and true is word of mouth. Okay. When somebody can tell you about a program that has helped them personally or directly, you're going to get more people to pay attention to it. We also have all of the social media platforms, Facebook, X, what used to be Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and we share our information. We also have a website, ulem.org, where there's content about the programs that we offer and contact information. And then myself going out and being on shows like this or on the news, getting coverage in the paper for some of the things that we've been involved in, whether it's advocacy or programming. But again, I think at the end of the day, the best surefire way to reach the masses is through word of mouth.
What are some of the annual events? I know you mentioned you have a job fair coming up in June. Do you have any other events besides that?
Sure. On June 1st at the parking lot in RCC, there's the covered parking lot with the solar panels, we'll be having a Healthy Vibes event. When the pandemic ended, a lot of people ended up rolling off of the Medicaid rolls. And so there's been a process of redetermination, but a lot of people don't know what is involved in that process and have been going without health care. And so we have international celebrity DJ D-Nice, who will be here on June 1st. And that will be the draw to get people to come out. But we will also have healthcare and health service providers present, as well as many vendors, to share information with people about the need to get re-enrolled if they are not, but also have screenings, blood pressure screenings, learn about proper diet and nutrition, learn about diabetes, and particularly focused on the illnesses and diseases that disproportionately impact communities of color and the Black community in particular, but also raising general awareness about health and various aspects of health, including mental health issues. We will also have a women's empowerment breakfast on May 21st. That will be at Fenway Park from 7:30 to 9. It's an opportunity for us to acknowledge and affirm women who have done great things and been leaders in the corporate or entrepreneurship space, grassroots and nonprofit space. And we want to recognize a rising star as well. And that is an annual event for us. This year will be our 105th year as an organization. At the top, you mentioned that we are one of the oldest affiliates of the Urban League. We were founded in 1919. And so this year, we will be having a 105th anniversary gala probably sometime in November.
Oh, okay. Now, beyond the job workforce development, have you seen a decline since the COVID-19? People more involved or not involved in the workforce? Has there been a decline? I mean, how have you seen in some of the programs you've been offering?
It's been a mix. With our coding program, we've had a steady pace of students, haven't seen as many people, and with the changing landscape around tech, I think it's causing us to evaluate how our programming needs to continue to evolve. And so right now we're in conversations around expanding our programming to include cybersecurity, as well as IT management and data analytics and potentially AI. I think it's really important for people in communities of color who have been historically left behind when it comes to the technological divide, to ensure that we're creating opportunities for people to learn and be trained on those technologies. One, because there are employment opportunities that are available, but two, especially when it comes to AI, the conversation around ethics and the use of these tools oftentimes leave people of color out of the conversation. And so as the tools advance and develop and emerge, thoughtfulness around how these technologies impact or could potentially benefit our communities often don't happen. And so that's another reason why we're trying to do this work. But post-pandemic, we're seeing a rebound in our in-person programming and services now that everybody's back outside.
Okay. Yeah, because cybersecurity, definitely, that seems like a real good topic to dive into, because there's so much governance, risk management, compliance, all of those pieces. Yeah, to give those skills and mindsets to the folks. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, and and there's and we hear about the threats and the breaches all of the time, and it can be as simple as just how do you keep yourself safe online. But also there are small businesses, there are small nonprofits that don't have the resources to make the types of investment in a robust data security protocol. And, hopefully through this expansion of our programming, we can begin to provide some of those services in addition to connecting people with employment opportunities.
Now, have you looked at the trades, for instance, electricians, plumbing, carpentry? Is that an area that you may want to develop some relationships, partnerships?
We certainly do, and we have always valued the role of the trades. It's particularly important now as we're talking about some of these emerging opportunities in the green tech space and the climate tech space. People are talking about green jobs. My conversations with folks in labor are saying, has informed me that we don't just need green jobs, we need green careers. And the way that we develop green careers is when we have people in the trades who are licensed and skilled, very well skilled to take on some of these opportunities. And so it's not just we're going to train you to do this one thing, but you are an electrician, right? You've gone through the apprenticeship program, and now you're a licensed electrician, part of the labor movement and union. And now when these opportunities come up to install charging stations or solar panels, this is someone who can now make a career out of these opportunities as well. And so I think that's an important piece of the conversation.
Oh, okay. Now, what about, your background in law, criminal justice, and have you ever thought about branching the Eastern branch and learning people about exposing them to be paralegals or anything of that nature?
We haven't had that conversation. One of the things that I've been working through is this feeling of kind of being out over my skis. And what I mean by that is that I'm so I have a strong desire to be impactful in this role and continue to raise the prominence of this organization and help change the trajectory of people's lives. But the reality is we've come through a transition. Dr. Keith Motley, who was previously on this show, was the interim CEO, my predecessor, for about 3.5 years, part of which was the COVID pandemic. And he was there as an interim and on a part-time capacity. And so he stabilized the organization and made sure that we were able to come out of the pandemic strong. But there's a lot of growth that we have to do. And so my concern is that, given my background in advocacy and in the civil rights community, there are a lot of opportunities that are being presented to me and invitations for the organization to be involved in a number of things, as well as building out our programmatic work and workforce development training. And we don't yet have the capacity to address all of those things. And so to your question around whether or not we want to engage people on considering the field of law, certainly on a one-to-one basis, if somebody asks me about it, I'll tell them to the extent that I have time to engage in those conversations. I think one aspect of what we can do is be a hub to refer people to the resources and programs that will help people think through those. But right now, I think we're prioritizing, at least programmatically, the tech training, venturing into the climate tech / renewable energy job training opportunities as well.
Yeah, because I think still you'll be a great, like you said, as a hub to be able to refer people to affiliate partners and organizations that that can help people in the legal and corporate criminal justice area. Yeah. No, because I think you're in a great spot. You're doing you got 4 prime areas that you're working with that affects everybody. Housing, economic development, education,
exactly.
Those pieces. What are some of your visions going forward? I mean, you're fairly new in the position, but what are some of your visions going forward?
Yeah, I've been in the role for 10 months, and I really have a desire to double down on the work that we've been doing, the coding program. But my vision is a world where people's life outcomes aren't determined by the color of their skin or their zip code. That people have readily available opportunities for education and employment that provides a livable wage and sustainable, affordable housing opportunities in a healthy, clean environment. And, like that's a big, big, bold vision. But the reality of it is, it's like if we don't have visions like that, where there's no vision, the people will perish.
Yes.
And so, that's what I'm projecting out into the world that I want to see, and I want to be able to empower people, and with an aim towards changing lives, and not to say that people don't have power, but we want to make sure that they have access to the tools and the resources that they can help leverage their power with.
Any thoughts about connecting with the workforce development for the state of Commonwealth of Massachusetts?
Yeah, so we've certainly had conversations with Secretary Lauren Jones. That was one of the first meetings I tried to get scheduled when I started in this role, and she's been very gracious and with her time, and also been in conversations with the folks through Mass Hire, which has been the primary workforce development agency for the state. And so we continue to be in conversations about how our work aligns with them and how we can benefit from the work that they're doing and engaged in.
Okay. Any particular programs or things you're looking to do? How you can leverage with some of the things they're doing at Mass Hire? Or
I think for now it's making sure that the people who are coming to us that don't fit within our current programming get access to the programming that is available. But what I'd really like to explore is an expansion of our Simbo Coding Academy to make sure that we're developing opportunities to get people into the cybersecurity fields, to get people in IT management, data analytics. But then also we're working on building out capacity in climate tech. There are so many jobs that are going to be available that are connected to this green economy, whether it's solar charging stations, wind, other renewable energy sources, and there is the physical implementation of those, but then there's also the technical aspects of it, and we want to be able to train people for as many of those opportunities that are available. And we believe that working with Mass Hire and the Secretary of Workforce Development and Labor would create that opportunity.
What about the Boston Chamber of Commerce, or some of the high-tech organizations in the area? Would maybe connect with them?
Yeah, I think that's a critical component of it. We've been in conversation with trade organizations like AIM, Associated Industries of Massachusetts, to really begin to connect with some of the employers. One of the things that is key is making sure that the students who come through our program have a job to connect to when they complete the program. And so we've been doing fairly well with that, but there's always room for improvement. And I think one of the ways to increase the placement is when we have partnerships with organizations. And so groups like AIM or the Chamber of Commerce are key partners in helping us establish those relationships.
Yes. Okay. Now, I know you talked about you do resume building and things of that nature. So do you ever do mock interviews with the candidates so they can maybe if you videotape them, they can see themselves how they responded and get some pointers and all that good stuff?
Sure, that has certainly been a part of what we have done in the past. We do less of that now.
Okay.
We rely on our job fair. We have the clinics in the beginning of the job fair, so that's an opportunity for folks to do that. And there's several other resources that are out there. We just began a partnership with ABCD. In Boston they received a career center designation, and we're a partner with them for the Roxbury area. And so that's a resource that'll be made available. So, Urban League won't be doing that directly, but we're in partnership with an organization that does provide those services. One of the things that we're about to begin to embark on is Rework. As a National Urban League has a partnership with Rework America, which is an initiative to make sure that it's moving towards a skills-based employment opportunity. So, and you saw this with the state changing some of the requirements, removing degree requirements for the postings, for job postings, because a lot of times people are screened out from getting a job that they may very well be qualified for, given the experiences that they've had. But because of that degree requirement, they can. And so through the Rework America initiative, it's a twofold initiative. One is working with people who are seeking jobs to reframe their resumes to highlight and emphasize the skills that they have that may connect to a particular position. But then it's also working with employers to help them in crafting their job descriptions so that it identifies for potential applicants what the necessary skills are for the work and puts a greater emphasis on that. And so the hope being that increases the likelihood that people will connect with opportunities and be seriously considered given the skills that they have.
Do you see some of the employees looking to do more apprenticeships or internships?
I don't know if I'm seeing more employees looking to do that. I think employees are looking to get paid and get a job, a full-time job with employment and a livable wage. That said, I think the conversation around apprenticeship has been a lot more prominent now, because I think people are seeing that as a way to get an entry point into an organization or into a field. And it's a low-risk opportunity because there's been some level of training that people have attained to get into the apprenticeship, and then the apprenticeship is like on-the-job training. It increases the likelihood that someone is going to successfully transition into a field or into a role. And so I've been hearing more about apprenticeship opportunities and people desiring to establish apprenticeships.
From the corporations or?
From corporations and from employing agencies or workforce training agencies.
Oh, okay. So do you think that has any legs to it, or that's gonna? Is it still in infancy stages?
I don't know if it's in its infancy. Maybe it's just me new to the conversation. I'm just now hearing about it. You know, once you hear something, then you hear it everywhere.
Okay.
But what I do think is people are trying to figure out what work looks like in this post-pandemic era. We've got hybrid work situations. We've got the big resignation. We've got a lot of jobs, but then a lot of people not seeking certain jobs. And so trying to right size the supply and the demand has, at least from my perspective, raised the apprenticeship conversation in a way that, at least for me, I had not heard before.
Oh, okay. Are there any other final thoughts you'd like to share before we wrap up our podcast today?
Sure. I think another piece of the work that the Urban League does is provide services and training for first responders and clergy for culturally sensitive responses to dealing with victims and survivors of domestic violence, but also services and supports for victims and survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. That's a prominent piece of some of the work that we do, and want to make sure that folks are aware of those services and that we're present in the community. I think that informs our ability to really make sure that victims' needs are being met and that they're being properly served. And, as a 105-year-old civil rights organization, we are going to continue to be engaged in advocacy around the issues that are impacting our lives. We are physically located in Nubian Square in Boston, but one of the goals for me is to expand our geographic representation as an organization. We've been active in Brockton, Massachusetts. There's been a lot of conversation about the schools and what's happening there, a call for the National Guard. So we've been working with community members to organize a response to make sure that we don't have soldiers in our schools, and that the children are still receiving what it is they need. So my hope is that people, if they don't already, that they begin to see the Urban League as a resource, but also as an advocate and champion for racial and social and economic justice in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you again for taking the time out and being a guest today on our podcast. It's truly been an essential conversation here about workforce development and learning more about what the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts does and how you're advocating for all people. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I love recording it. You know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and share it with the wider community. Until the next time, check out a past episode. I'll see you at the next one. Peace. I'm your host, Justice.